I'm Matt Landau from VRMB, and this is Unlocked, Season 8, First Mover Status. This episode features Miles Chu, the marketing manager at Compass Resorts, which manages over 300 vacation rentals in Destin, Florida. In this interview, Miles and I talk about where a marketing specialist fits inside a hospitality company. We get very nerdy and talk about specific things that are working to drive leads and bookings, plus the projects and exercises that failed hard on the floor, never to return again. Miles shares the elements of being a local hype man that gives him, and really any listener who champions a limited edition style of hospitality, advantages over companies who are headquartered elsewhere. This episode's brought to you by Point Central, the leaders in smart home automation, and Breezeway, a property care and operations platform. Like each episode in this season, we've kicked things off by asking Miles, what does first mover status mean to you?
I would say first mover status to me means not being afraid to take a leap, to just, you don't really have all the information saying that this is the right thing to do. You don't have the historical information saying that this will work, but taking the leap and doing what you feel is right, feeling like doing what you feel works, not just for your company, but for your property owners and for your guests.
I love that. And have you taken that kind of leap in your professional career before, or has it all been slow and very meticulously planned?
It's actually started off with the leap. I got into the industry by quitting my job previously. I worked as a manager at a pet store, and I was like, I don't like this. Like this is okay. I love cats. I love dogs. I love all the pets and everything, but this isn't it. So I didn't have anything lined up. I put in my 2 weeks notice, and I just found Compass and got hired by an awesome manager who kind of mentored me in a way and helped me grow into who I am today. And the rest is kind of history. So it's really started off with a leap.
And did you then have experience in marketing before that? Like in your interview, were you interviewing for a marketing position and talking about cats?
No talking about cats. We did talk about cats, honestly, in the first meeting, probably like during the interview. But I had a little bit of advertising and more hard marketing, for lack of better words. Like I had HTML, a little bit of CSS, a lot of spreadsheet experience. But I actually started off in Compass as a photographer. We do all of our photography in-house, and that's what I was hired to do initially.
Beautiful. I love that segue into the marketing world. So when you start going around and taking photos of these homes, is this your first discovery that a whole professional vacation rental sector exists?
Yeah, I had no idea, and it's wild because I moved up here in 2017, and I didn't start in the vacation rental industry until 2019. So I had been up here for 2 years, and I knew that, oh, this is a big travel destination, the Panhandle of Florida, the beautiful Emerald Coast. But then it was like, wait, what's vacation rentals? What is this?
Famous last words, right?
Oh yeah.
Wait, where did you come up from?
Born and raised in Virginia, and then I went to college at Florida Institute of Technology down on the Space Coast of Florida. Met my wife there, and then we moved up here when she got a job on one of the Air Force bases up here as a contractor.
And when you began with Compass Resorts, has it grown since then?
Yes, and it's kind of grown in a side way, more of a horizontal growth. It's interesting. So when I started with Compass, we had just acquired another front desk location, so we are now up to 3 front desks, and we were growing at that property specifically. So we've kind of shifted our inventory around a little bit, and we have, I would say, about 80% of our inventory between 3 front desk locations.
And I'm not sure our listeners necessarily know what that means. Is that a building where you manage lots of properties and have a presence at the walk-in?
Yes. So we manage at three different properties here: Silver Beach Towers, Silver Shells Beach Resort and Spa, and the Palms of Destin. And at each of those, we have a decent amount of inventory, but we also manage the front desk. We have our on site presence. So we actually have a rental manager stationed at each of those locations. And we do our operations from there as well.
Interesting. So this is a highly dense tourist destination. These are towers that are designed for people going on vacation. And in the buildings in which you have a front desk location, you're getting a touch point for every visitor that stays.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I love this. So, and just in total, how many properties are you marketing these days?
Around 320.
Amazing. So I think that's helpful before we nerd out on marketing stuff. But it's also big for an average vacation rental professional. Do you see huge advantages that Compass Resorts has over single property owners when it comes to flexing marketing might?
Yeah, a little bit. By having more properties, that means you can host more guests. By hosting more guests, that means you can kind of grow your list of returning guests. You can grow your list of who's interested in you. And then, by having like the perks of being bigger is, you have a little bit more flexibility with where you spend your money at. You can compete a little bit more on certain things versus other things, so on and so forth.
And strategically, in the planning process, I'm guessing most people listening to this, whether they have one or 300 properties that they're managing, do have traveler types. In marketing speak, people often use the word avatar. But what types of travelers or buckets of travelers do you find yourself marketing to for the most part?
I would say for the most part, we have a lot of families. We're a huge family destination. We market a lot of our, a lot of our guests are families and family oriented. We have a handful of you get your dinks here and there, like your dual income, no kids, where it's a group of people coming down, but most of our accommodations are 2 to 3 bedroom condos. We also have, smaller and larger properties, but I would say a lot of it's family oriented, which is kind of cool. Back in the fall, we did a Facebook campaign where we had, hey, we'll give away $1,000 towards a stay. You just got to submit a photo of you and your family or your friends on the beach, and whichever one gets the most likes, you win. No, we didn't try to gather people's email addresses. We didn't do any of that. We just want to show off how much fun families have here.
And I love that campaign. We'll share the link in the show notes. It kind of went viral. There's like thousands and thousands of posts and photos. And what I love most about it is that these people are, I mean, it checks off all the boxes. They're remembering their vacation. They're sharing their wonderful moment with other people. Other people are chiming in and saying, oh my God, that looks amazing, so memorable. Meanwhile, they're all preparing themselves to come back. And you, Compass, sits kind of at the center of all of it.
Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like we planned it a little strategically too. So we did it specifically in September because, by that point, kids are back in school. We always have a saying down here in Destin of, hey, when is it busy? When are kids out of school? That's when it's busy. So kids are back in school. It's starting to quiet down a little bit more around here. It's been a month or two or even up to 3 or 4 since they've been down here. And it kind of gives them that chance to go back and just reflect and say, man, can we get away for the fall? Can we get away for Thanksgiving? Can we get away for Christmas?
And are all these travelers driving over?
No. So historically we were a huge drive-to market. Ironically, as everything shut down, our TDC was adding stops for the airport that's over here and over on the Fort Walton side of Destin, Fort Walton. And they added a lot of direct flights to some of our popular feeder markets that are usually a 12 to 18-hour drive. So we had nonstops from Nashville. We had nonstops from Kentucky, all of these new nonstop flights. So then now is, hey, we could hop in a car for 12 hours, 14 hours, or we could hop on a plane, fly, be there super quick, and have more time to spend on the actual vacation itself.
And then, so are you marketing to fly to guests differently than you'd market to drive to?
I wouldn't say differently. I think at the end of the day, as long as we make sure they're aware of how to get around town, that's what's important. And that'll ultimately drive their decision. But as long as we're marketing to the guests who go, I want to stay there. I don't care how I get there, whether it be by plane, by car, if they have to find a way to take a train here. But that's what we want to capture. And then we'll help them get there eventually. Like we'll say, hey, you can, if you fly, we highly recommend you take a car, like you get a rental car, or if you drive, you can stay just about anywhere. But if you're flying and you don't want to get a rental car, this might be a good property because it has everything you need.
And do you do remarketing to those different groups in different ways at all?
Kind of. It really depends on when they're coming down. In high demand season, typically not. There's not as much return on it just trying to segment it out because it's high demand. But usually in the shoulder seasons, we'll try to like market to them specifically, or if in certain cases like where the gas prices jump up, we sometimes will try to do a promo of like, hey, we'll give you like $100 off your reservation towards gas.
Love that. And these folks who are driving, are they more inclined to take advantage of last minute promotions, sort of things?
Yeah, especially if they're inside of the 6 hour drive. So surprisingly, something I didn't know when I moved up here is we are actually closer to, like being in Destin, we're closer to New Orleans than we are to Orlando. New Orleans is like a 3.5, 4 hour drive, whereas Orlando is about six and a half, depending on time changes and all that. But we try to market to those, especially like if they're coming in last minute. But then there's also times where when people want to drive, they'll drive. I helped us, well, I didn't book them. I helped assist with booking them. A guest coming from Michigan, and we had a spring break rule for that property of Saturday to Saturday, but we shifted it to Friday to Friday. So then that way, as they drove down Friday night, they could still check in on that same Saturday at 2 in the morning. But they didn't have to sit there and wait until our typical check-in time to check in.
And are you using email marketing to communicate with those types of promotion?
Yeah, we do email, social media. We utilize our website as well. We actually have about 3 websites that we utilize specifically that we manage to help push word out, and definitely through SEO stuff too.
3 websites, meaning you have 3 of your own independent websites?
Yes. So we actually have our standard compassresorts.com that holds all of our inventory. But then I think it was about 3 years ago, no, longer, it was about 5 years ago, we created a specific website for one of our properties, Silver Beach Towers, where we also have like the front desk and everything. And after doing some data analysis on that, we saw, oh, this actually works out pretty well. What if we do that for another one? So then we added a Palms of Destin website where now we actually rank higher than the COA's page. We rank higher than any other page when searching for the Palms of Destin.
I love that. And I will caution folks, like this is a great technique if you're big, but if you're small and you're trying to manage, I mean, one website is plenty to manage if you're small. That said, the long tail keyword aspect of it seems to be universal. If you can really zoom in on exactly what someone is looking for, whether it's a brand name, like the name of your towers, or a very, very specific description of what they're looking for, like 2-bedroom condo on the beach in Destin, Florida. The specificity of it seems like a play that works for almost anyone.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, especially once you start getting into it, when you think about your customer profile, or even just in general, like the customer journey, when you're going to somewhere new, especially like your newer guest, they don't know anything about the area. They don't know what they're looking for. So they just type in places to stay in Destin. And that's great. That's cool. But you're going to be competing with VRBO. You're going to be competing with Airbnb. You're going to be competing with Booking.com, Expedia, Hotels.com, all these different sites that have a lot more money than we do. So what we do is instead we focus on the specific location rather than trying to target top of funnel where they're in that awareness phase of, I want to take a vacation in Destin. We rather target the guests who know that, oh, I want to take a vacation at this resort in Destin or with this specific neighborhood of houses or things like that.
And do you have, from a high level, your journey, your customer journey, or some people refer to it as a funnel, divided into focus points between like somebody who's just starting out their search and somebody who's like ready to book?
Yeah, and we kind of do different marketing for each one. So for someone who's just starting out, we have like an entire SEO campaign for that. And we have an entire PPC campaign for that too, where it's like we try to capture them, but we know that we're competing with those larger OTAs. So when we're on, like, for example, we're on a handful of them, and on some of them, we actually try to use our name in them, and we try to like give them little hints of, hey, you know, you can always check us out directly. So at the end of our listings, we always have, this is professionally managed by Compass Resorts. So whether it's a house or a condo, we'll say like, this condo is professionally managed by Compass Resorts. Kind of that little like tie-in just to help them expand their journey. More of your veteran searchers will get it, but your newer ones won't, and that's okay.
I also love how you guys double down on the fact that Compass Resorts is locally owned and operated. That's one of the pillars of limited edition, the other two being family owned or operated and specialized in any specific destination or property type. And it's kind of funny for listeners who are maybe small, like let's just say you manage one property. Compass Resorts with their 300 seems massive and so beyond what you offer. But Compass Resorts, as a locally owned and operated business, is also distinct and more specific than a nationwide vacation rental management company or a platform like Vrbo or Airbnb that people don't even realize has nothing to do with managing the properties.
Mm-hmm. And that's always the wildest thing too, especially so I'll be full, like, I'm always big about transparency. I am a marketing manager, but I always am a like team player first. So there's been times where I go up to the front desk, and if we're a little short staffed, you know, it is what it is. But if the front desk agent has to use the bathroom, I'll watch the front desk. And it's always hilarious. I love doing this because it lets me kind of get a grounded approach of, hey, what's actually going on up here? What are guests saying? What are guests thinking? And there's been so many times where it's like, oh, who'd you book with? Because, you know, we manage like access for some of the other properties that we don't even rent. And they'll say, oh, I booked with Airbnb. And we're like, okay, do you know which condo you're staying in? I'm staying at the Palms of Destin. All right. Um, all right. Let me just look for your last name real quick. Hold on. Let me flip through, you know, all 200 check-ins today to just to find your last name. And it's wild that even some of these individual owners and these smaller ones that could really differentiate themselves by being more nimble. Because think about it. If you're trying, even if you think about it like in terms of like cars, if you have to make a turn with the little tiny smart car two doors, you can turn those things on like a 2 foot radius. But then if you try to make a turn with like a F-350, you need like 3 lanes of traffic. You might need a curb to hop onto. You can't really turn that fast. So you're not nimble. Whereas the smaller property managers, they can be nimble. They can get in front of their guests more frequently and kind of establish that bond between them. Because once you have that bond, that's what's gold. Because then that means that they're going to come back to you. That means you don't have to work as hard to market to new guests. You can say, hey, I know that Jim over here, him and his family come down every year, the third week of June. That's when they love to come down and take their vacation. And I make sure that it's going to be ready for them.
And I love that from anybody who works in the industry who is not on a regular basis interacting with guests, having that little window, even if you're just down there for a couple of minutes or an hour or a day or something like that, it really does give you a tremendous insight into what's happening on the ground.
Destin has a lot of visitors from different markets, but there's a handful of markets where even though they're in our top 10, they're not in our top 10 for spend. So, you know, they come down here, they go to the beach, they get back in their condo, they go get in their car, they go home. But they come down here so much. So then it's like, all right, how do we get these people out? And by being at the front desk one day, I was able to find out, oh, they literally don't know that anything else is around here. So I have a friend who has a younger kid. I help him out with planning the birthday party. We had the birthday party at one of the little local parks in Destin. And I sell that park so much because there's so many families who come here with little kids. And it's like, the Gulf is dangerous. There's people who died in the Gulf every single year because they don't know about the beach flags. They don't know about, if it's a red flag, please don't let your 3-year-old toddler get in the water by themselves. So I always refer them to this smaller park that's on the Bayside. Bayside has a lot calmer water, things like that. And you'd be surprised how many people have never even thought about looking for that. So it's like there's all these little things in your market, no matter where you are, that the bigger players aren't going to be able to keep up with. I know that if I was to go to like some of like the bigger companies, they probably don't even have that park on their website. They probably don't even know about that park. But we do because we're a little bit smaller. So I can only imagine, even if you were smaller, you could get in front of all of your guests with this information, and you could even like make it so that you build that bond and that relationship. And I think that's what it's all about.
If we live in the place and we love the place, we're not selling when we're interacting. We're championing or introducing the place to others. And it's a completely different dynamic. We're operating on completely separate terms than somebody who's selling a widget or a commodity, some corporation who's viewing this merely as a transaction. Is that what you refer to when you use this phrase, applying hospitality to marketing?
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing, because if like for especially nowadays, you can go online and you can get anything you want. If you need a new car, you can have it delivered to your house. If you need to book a vacation, you can go online and not even talk to a single soul. But it's something that computers can't generate. They can generate a lot of stuff with AI now, but you can't generate hospitality, for lack of better words. You can't create that feeling of, oh, this person I'm talking to an actual human on the other side of the screen. I'm talking to a human on the other side of this phone who has gone through something similar to me, who has kind of shared that same human experience of, I'm going somewhere new and I have no idea what I'm going to do there.
And back to the funnel or customer journey, you talked about folks who are new, and you also talked about veterans. But what about these people who are in your orbit? You have information on them. They've maybe visited the website or come in through an ad or opted into something, but have not booked. What is your objective, and what techniques are you using to achieve that for those folks?
So for those ones, we usually try to hook them with content, for lack of better words. We put out blogs, we have our social media accounts that we use. We try to make sure that they stay like, you can't really like, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. We can't make them book their reservation right now, but we can at least let them know where the water's going to be at. We can tell them, hey, we're always here for you. You can always go to our website. Hey, we have a special going out. If it's a price point that you're worried about, here you go. Here's a promo code. Things like that, where I'm not going to try to force them to convert just because, but I'm going to make sure we're still top of mind when they are ready to convert.
And I think most people listening to this are familiar with good content marketing and generic content marketing, best places to take your kids in Destin. Have you had any success with anything outside the box in terms of content that really seems to hook people that maybe our listeners hadn't thought of before?
TikTok. That's been the wild card. It's been so weird. So
Are you a TikTok influencer now?
I hope not.
Because I never used TikTok up until someone said you should just download it and see what it's all about, just to be on your radar. And I lifted my head up like an hour later, and I had just gone into a TikTok world. And I was like, I got to delete this thing. And I never used it again. What are you using it for?
So we use it as a video platform, for lack of better words, to show walkthroughs of the condos and houses. But then we also use it as a creative way to get some different content out there that we can still repurpose. We can still use it on Instagram. We can still use it on Facebook. But I remember one of our first videos that took off was a video of local restaurants. it was just local restaurants in Destin, and the amount of engagement was wild. It had like we went from having about like 3,000 views being out. Ooh, we got a lot of views on this one to this one has 127,000 and it's been a day. What?
Wow. But are they all like teenagers?
No. We actually had a snowbird book after. So this is the wildest story. So I am by no means a very like content east side person. I suck at copywriting. I take good photos, and that's about it. So I leave all the content to the rest of my team, and they handle it. I help guide them, but that's all them. I give them the power and the flexibility to do it because they know it best. And I look at the data. I look at all the numbers and stuff like that. So I was looking at Google Analytics, and we had a reservation come directly sourced through last touch attribution to TikTok, which means, that's the last point of contact that they had from an outside referral source was TikTok.
What technology did you use to do that? To track that?
Just Google Analytics.
Oh, it shows the last. Okay, got it.
Yeah, so it'll based on referral traffic. So we have our link in our bio of TikTok, and when TikTok sends them over, it kind of uses like a little redirect. So then we're able to source it from TikTok.
And then when they convert into an actual booking, the analytics shows that too.
So it'll show like how many, if it was a multi-touch attribution, or if you're looking just at first or last touch. I like to use last touch just because it's simpler. I don't like it is what it is. We could talk about attribution for days, but
so TikTok was the last touch point.
TikTok was the last touch point, and I went and looked at the reservation, and it was a snowbird. It was someone who was retired, who booked a 27 night stay in February for next year, February of 2023.
Wow.
And this happened about a month ago. And I was like, wait, you came from TikTok?
Very young soul.
What? Oh my Lord, yeah. And even just like looking at like, because Google Analytics kind of can give you a little bit of discrete data about age ranges and whatnot. And our age range on there kind of follows our typical age range for booking patterns. Now, of course, it skews a little bit lower just because of the platform itself, but we still get a decent amount of traffic from there. We've gotten email inquiries sourcing TikTok of saying, like, they'll just email in saying, hey, I saw this video on TikTok. How much is it for a week? And then, we have to start asking the question of, well, what week do you want to come down? But it's been interesting.
Did you hear that TikTok just opened a restaurant?
No.
Yeah, it's like an experimental thing I was reading about, that you can now purchase the food items that you've seen on TikTok that have gone viral, and they'll like make it for you and deliver. It's kind of like Black Mirror stuff.
Oh yeah, that's a little weird. I don't know about all that.
But are you using, in terms of like, there's an aesthetic and a style on TikTok, and I think it's similar to Instagram. Are you following those themes, or are you just doing your own thing?
A little bit of both, a little bit here and there. So we usually follow the theme of, especially for our walkthroughs, we try to keep it very simple with, hey, we start at the front door, go all the way through to the balcony if it has a balcony, especially if it's beachfront. If it doesn't have a balcony, it's a house. We usually start by walking up to the house or walking into the living room and showing off all of the open space that you have as a family that you can enjoy. We try to really like give an extra element that you can't see in photos. Where in a still shot, as a photographer, I really know you can angle your camera like 15 degrees to the right, and all of a sudden that ugly vanity is out the picture. Doesn't exist until you get there and you walk
and everything's bigger.
Yep.
Yeah.
But now it's like when you're watching a walkthrough, you're seeing, okay, like this is like 15 steps from the front door to the balcony, or 25 steps, or ooh, this is spacious. This looks really cool. Something you can't really capture well in photography.
And what I like about TikTok is you don't have to, and it's very informal by nature. So it's not like you have to be absolutely perfect and refined with your videos. It's kind of just a behind the scenes sort of thing, right?
Oh yeah. And I mean, we do our TikTok videos when we go take photos. So if an owner comes in and decides they're going to redo their entire bathroom, we'll look at our log and go, oh, we don't actually have a video walkthrough of this one. And we film it in about 5-10 minutes.
I think I sense a TikTok photo competition in your future or something similar.
Oh, we'll have to see about that one. I don't I don't know how we'll make that one work, especially with like getting legal with TikTok. I don't want them coming after us that quickly.
The TikTok legions. Here are two tools that epitomize the theme of first mover status, the kind of products and services that actually give you unfair advantages over your competition. Point Central provides smart property solutions for smart vacation property managers. They help streamline operations, protect the property, and enhance the guest experience using keyless access. Why? Because guests are tired after traveling, duh. And being able to go directly to that property with keyless access instead of stopping at a manager's office, this is no longer a luxury. This is a standard practice. Plus, everybody loves avoiding extra trips due to lost keys, not to mention the constant cost of rekeying. Point Central partners stay aware with an activity log of who enters and leaves the property, which helps keep track of cleaning and maintenance crews as well. You can also gain control of your utility bills with their smart thermostats. Schedule set points so guests won't be able to drastically raise or lower the temperatures, for instance. You can ensure the temperature stays consistent when the unit is vacant. Prevent costly maintenance projects caused by water leaks, mold, or HVAC issues with real-time alerts that allow you to be proactive. Visit pointcentral.com/VRMB to learn more. And Breezeway, whose property care and operations platform helps you coordinate, communicate, and verify the detailed work and deliver the best service experience to your guests. With tools for intelligent task scheduling, quality assurance, real-time work coordination, guest messaging, supplies management, owner reporting, and more, oh my! Breezeway helps thousands of short-term rental managers and hospitality operators increase your operational efficiency and eliminate hours of manual work. This allows you to boost your service revenue. It was created by the founding team of Flipkey, which was since acquired by TripAdvisor, and Breezeway is just elevating the experience at every property they touch. Visit breezeway.io/VRMB and get implementation fees waived. That's a $1,000 value right there. Okay, let's get back to the show. Have there been any social media platforms that have failed for you miserably?
Oh my Lord. So Snapchat, definitely. We definitely tried to use Snapchat at one point for, I think it was about a solid like 4 months we tried to use it. And it was not a good one.
Okay.
It just, it was not the right medium. We attempted, but we realized that, oh, okay, people look at your story, but
They're 8.
yeah, and not even just the age demographic of it. It's just the usage of it. I feel like so. I'm a grand old 29 years old, and at the time we had someone on the team who was fresh out of college. I think she's 24. So she was showing us how like what they use it for, and I was like, I remember when Snapchat first came out, and I was like, I think I'm still a beta tester for Snapchat from like 2012, and I'm like, I'm the worst beta tester ever. I don't use it that often, but I was like, this is mainly just like messaging and communications. Like, yeah, you can use Snap Maps, but how many people actually use the map functionality of it? We tried, we failed, we left it alone.
All right, that's fair. Any other ones?
Twitter, we tried that one, did not work. I feel like Twitter works if you're very big so that people can go complain to you, and that's about it. So because I think about when I have the urge to use Twitter, or if what I see with bigger companies using Twitter, it's either you have your Wendy's where they make memes and it's all about humor, or you have your like American Airlines Delta where it's
Right.
they make a tweet every now and then just to keep the feed looking clean, but then you look at the mentions and replies and it's everybody complaining that my flight got canceled. This happened. I tried to call in. I got put on a 2-hour hold. I tried to message in. The web chat didn't work. Nothing worked. All right, I'm going to go to Twitter.
Yeah, it definitely attracts a inflammatory style of content. And anything else that you would not go back to before we move on?
Um, this one's a little up in the air, but Pinterest. So we used to use Pinterest a lot, and then we kind of stopped because we weren't getting a ton of engagement. And I think we stopped back in 2020. It was around the time of the shutdown. We kind of started like whittling it back as far as like usage on Pinterest, mainly just because it was hard to change out old photos. If you deleted a photo because the owner replaced something in the condo, then now you're deleting it off of people's boards. You can't really just update the photo to whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of it felt a little weird, but we still get engagement from it to this day. And I'm like, this is odd. So maybe we might go back to it. Maybe we won't. We're still kind of playing with that, just depending on like how much time do we want to dedicate to this.
Right. Because, and especially for our smaller owners and managers, you got to be really selective with your time. And I'm curious, back to the funnel conversation, you talked to us about how you communicate with new cold leads. You talked to us how you communicate with warm leads and try to drive them to the booking. How do you communicate with people after they have stayed or during the stay?
Okay, so we use Track PMS. So we use Track and we use Pulse. We have the whole suite. We message them at check-in. We message them the day before. We use that as the automation side of that to really make sure that the base communication is covered. And then we also found that, hey, there's been like, because my department manages reviews, we found, hey, sometimes there'll be a reservation where, and even before we were using Track, where a guest would have a complaint about something and they would go the entire stay without calling us, without coming to the front desk about anything. And we'd find out about it on the review. So then we were like, well, that sucks. We could have fixed that. Because it would be something simple as like, there's a light bulb out and the TV remote was missing a battery and it ruined my vacation. I had a horrible time, 1 star. And we're like, we could have fixed that in like 10 minutes. So we were like, and you got to put yourself in the guest shoes sometimes and say, all right, sometimes I'm the exception. I would go to the front desk and say, hey, can I get a light bulb? I'll screw it in myself. I just want a light bulb. But, sometimes people are like, I'm on vacation. I'm not going to do anything. If it's not right, I'll leave a review.
Mm-hmm.
So what we started doing is we started sending out surveys after check-in. And we give it about, I think we have that on an automation timer of about 18 hours. So if they check in at 4 p.m., it'll come in like sometime the night of the next day or in the daytime of the next day. So like around 10 a.m. just to kind of give them, or my math might be off, but we try to have it come in around 10 a.m. the next day of hey, you've had one full night. How's it looking? Is everything up to your standards? Do we meet the expectations that we set? So on and so forth. So then that way they don't have to call. They don't have to try to find the front desk. They can just fill out this little survey that we send via text to them. And if there's anything wrong, we get it, we monitor it, and then we get it taken care of. We'll reach out to them and say, hey, we noticed that your survey said that the hot water wasn't getting hot enough. We're going to send a tech out today to come look at that. So then that way, they don't have to go their entire vacation, even if it's a 3-night stay. They don't have to go the entire time with water that's not hot enough.
An earlier episode in this season with Graham Donahue, he does almost exactly the same thing. The verbiage that he uses is a little bit different. So the text message that goes to the guest the next morning says, how'd you sleep last night? And it has 3 options: happy face, medium, and unhappy face. And he, like you, found that if somebody didn't sleep well on the first night, it may have been the bed, but it was more likely something around that his team can then flag and follow up with, and at least let the guest vent a little bit with them as opposed to putting it in a review.
Oh, yeah. And I've definitely noticed that our reviews have been a lot, especially now that we're getting through spring break, they've been a lot more quiet, for lack of better words. There haven't been as many like 1-star bombs where it's like you see a 1-star review that's like a 5-paragraph essay, like line breaks out the wazoo of, oh my Lord, this is wrong, and then this is wrong, and then this is wrong. We've been able to solve a lot of issues this year, which has been really nice.
And so then if you're doing this wonderful post-arrival touch point What about after they have left and assuming they had an amazing stay, which, by the way, is perhaps overlooking the hardest work of all, which is the actual guest experience. But assuming all of that goes well, back into your marketing court, what are you doing after a guest departs?
Um, we do the same thing with the follow up survey, just making sure everything went well, but then we keep them in that same cycle and we still will send them an email every now and then. We try to keep for lack of better words, we try to automate the like anniversary emails. And we're trying to phase away from that just because we've noticed a shift in booking patterns. It's not necessarily going to be they book the same time every single year. Sometimes people are trying to get away 2 or 3 times a year.
For different reasons.
So we're moving away from that. Yeah. And it's like, they might have one big summer vacation, but then we've noticed a spike in Thanksgiving and Christmas days, especially comparing back to like 2019 and 2018. Whereas like we've always been a March to October destination, we've had a ton of guest check-in and checkouts in November and December, more so than we usually did. So we're trying to like shift around that and kind of make guests aware of things to do outside of their normal booking times and outside of their normal travel dates.
The last episode, just before yours, features Madeline List from Focusrite, and she points out these new trends, one of which is blended work vacations in which people are coming to work for extended periods of time. And that could very likely be the same guest that came and spent the family vacation there, right?
Mm-hmm. And one thing I've definitely noticed, especially being in a very tourism driven area, is the shift away from some of the historical norms where, 5 years ago, it wasn't crazy to think, oh, all of your summer is Saturday. That's what it is. Guests will book it. Now it's kind of shifting to we have guests that are paying more to stay for less nights. And it's weird. It's not something that you would think. You would think like, oh, if they're staying less nights, they would pay less. But there's one condo that we have that kind of gave me made my day. They let me experiment with their condo a little bit, and they said, "Hey, we don't care as long as it books up and as long as we make as much as we did last year, if not more." And I was like, "I think I can make that work."
If not, we're firing you.
Fingers crossed they wouldn't. But we went to I sat down with the rental manager and with the owner. We kind of talked it out, and we came with a strategy that we thought would work. And so far, it's working. We had a guest like 1 week that they had last year rented for like let's say 5,000. This year, a 5 night stay in that same period is renting for 55. So then it's like, wait, they made a little bit more in revenue, but it's a 2 nights less, which, that works out for the owner because then that means that and we don't usually book 2 night stays, but if we wanted to and we did, they would get an additional 2 nights. Or if they didn't and it's that empty, that gives us as property managers time to go in there and make sure, throughout the summer, hey, we're not trying to squeeze into 300 condos in 6 hours on a Saturday. We can go into this one on Tuesday because there's a gap between Tuesday and Wednesday. We can go in here on Sunday and make sure that we're doing the work that needs to be done. Like if we have to replace a refrigerator or we have to do like an AC repair or anything like that, we can do that on a Monday gap when there's not a guest versus having to interrupt a guest stay and say, hey, we're sending a vendor there to fix your AC because, your AC is broken in summer in Florida. So you're not having a good time. And now there's going to be some strange dude in there fixing an AC while you're trying to not sweat. So
you mentioned homeowners. Do you have a marketing strategy that mimics your guests with your homeowners? And how much time does that take how much of your time does that take?
So to answer that, yes, we do ish, kind of. And as far as time, it takes up more and less time throughout the year, depending on what season we're in. We've noticed that, if you have a full calendar, you're less likely to jump ship. So during the summer, we don't see a lot of it, but we see a lot of owners come back to their condos and they get to see it in the condition that's been left in. And then especially after summer, and they go, ooh, did we make the right choice? So we really focused after property care. Like we do departure inspections. We do arrival inspections in between the cleaners. So the guest cycle, like the operation cycle on a Saturday is guest checks out, departure inspector goes in there, checks to make sure everything's working, checks to make sure nothing was lost or anything like that. So we handle lost and found. We check to make sure any maintenance work orders are put in as soon as possible. The cleaners come in, they do the cleaning, they take care of all that, and then we do an arrival inspection where it's just following up just to make sure, hey, everything's clean and ready for the guests to check in. All the maintenance things have been addressed. If there's any other maintenance things that got missed during the first one, we catch them now. So then that way, hopefully before the guest checks in, it's taken care of. Or if it's something like, a light bulb, we can at least let the front desk know or let our contact center know to reach out to the guests and say, hey, your condo is ready and is ready early, but we're just waiting on a light bulb. Do you mind if a guy comes in to change a light bulb, or would you rather wait until check-in time or after they change the light bulb? Just so that way, we kind of make it a little bit easier on the guests to have that expectation.
And how much is like a new homeowner worth to you as a Compass Resorts? You don't have to give me specifics, but I'm guessing it's more than a single booking.
Oh, for sure. I would say as far as a new homeowner, especially, it depends on if they're new to the industry. I think, especially if they're new to the industry, it takes a lot. They're worth a lot, but they also have a high cost because you have to educate them. You have to let them know, hey, whatever you read on this blog about how to rent your own Airbnb, they make it seem really easy, but they're doing a lot of hard work behind the scenes and they have that experience. You can have us take a picture of like this really pretty pillow that you put on the bed, but I promise you, nobody's going to book your condo because of a pretty pillow. It might help set the mood. It might help when they're in there and it helps them enjoy their stay, but it's not going to be a factor in booking.
And what's your number one way to educate them?
Conversations, just communication. I think what we do, our strategy is really good. I act almost like the hype man in the corner for the rental manager. So
you are the hype man. And I've also got a TikTok account.
Yep. Yeah, so I kind of act like a little hype man in the corner for the rental manager where I go, hey, I have all this data. I back you up. I look at all the numbers, all the spreadsheets. I do the pivot tables and the data transforms and cleanup, and I can provide you with this information about what's going on with this property. And then the rental manager really forms that one-on-one bond with the property owner. So the property owner only has to go to one person. It's not, oh, I'm going to go talk to this person, that person, and the other person, and whoever gets to me. It's you're at this property. Your property manager is Caitlin. Your property manager is April. Your property manager is Whitney. Like that specific person. It's not a team that's shared, and it's like, oh, well, you get whoever you get, and then you better hope they're not off that day.
Tell us about this quarterly data newsletter for property owners and what a resounding success it was.
So I learned the hard way that people don't like numbers. So we used to do a quarterly newsletter. We thought we were being cool. We called it the Scope because, Compass Resorts, Compass, it's like a navigation tool. And what do you have on boats? Scopes. So you can see land. I like puns. But we did that, and it was all data focused. So, we talked about RevPAR. We talked about available occupancy versus paid occupancy versus calendar occupancy versus adjusted paid occupancy. We talked about how the market was doing versus how we were doing as a company, and how different shifts in the market were happening now, and buyer guest demand shifting, all this kind of stuff.
So far, this sounds tremendously helpful and informative and insightful.
Yeah, and nobody cares. They look at their statement and they go, yes, or they go, no.
Do you think that there would have been any other information from that same angle that would work, that could be salvaged, or is it all off the table now?
I now do it for the rental managers. So I give them the information out instead of sending it out, having them send it out to the property owners. I just give it to them and I say, hey, here's an update for you. Here's an update on this specific owner who has 3 properties with us. Or, hey, here's an update on this one that I saw that was struggling a little bit and now they're doing better. Versus going and trying to like inform the masses and stand on my soapbox and preach about how data analysis is going to save the world.
It's going to save your vacation.
Yeah, no, they don't care. They a majority of us want them to. They want us to do our job, and that's all they care about. They like take care of my condo or my house. Don't let crazy people in there, and just make sure it rents well. And I make my return on investment. That's all they care about.
And those are homeowners who are currently in your fleet. What about for new homeowners beyond just these conversations? Are you teaching them everything that it takes that goes into a professionally managed vacation rental home in content marketing, something?
Yes. There's been some homeowners where they read a blog about, hey, like, and I'm not going to name condo numbers or anything like that because I don't know if they listen or not, but they were very, 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 very adamant about the photo order. They were like, the pool picture needs to be first for this condo with 400 other condos because people don't know about the pool at the condo, and they had this whole specific thing, and I was like, okay, we can try it, we can do it. I'm not going to argue. It's your house at the end of the day. It's your property. You own it, but you have a really nice one. All the condos at this property have, they look like they came straight out of a flyer from 2008. Like, I'm pretty sure some of them have the original carpet from when the building was built in like 2007. And you've renovated. Your condo has shiplap walls. Like, you have an entire accent wall that is gorgeous. Why would you put that last? Why would you put that after a phone picture of a pool? I don't understand. But it's been kind of trying to educate them and show them and send like and just communicate with them because I try to think back to where I was 4 years ago before I started, and I would agree with them. I would say, yeah, put the pool first. That's what everybody cares about. But then at the same time, it's what makes you stand out. Yeah, cool. You put a pool picture, but nobody knows what your condo looks like, and they don't know if they're actually going to like staring at your walls for 16 hours when they're not outside.
And I know you're spending most of your time in marketing stuff. And I know you're probably inside of your property management software Track, but are there any additional tools or pieces of technology that gets plugged into Track that you'd seem to think your team could never do without?
For sure, key data. Key data has been a lifesaver, especially when it comes to being able to answer questions quickly. I don't have to export a bunch of things into Excel and then teach them how to use pivot tables. I can say, hey, click on this button, or better yet, hey, I have this report emailed to you every first Monday of the month. I also use Beyond Pricing a lot. I think I live inside of Beyond Pricing as much as I live inside of Track, but that's just the revenue management side of me. And then we use Blue Tent as well for our website connections and things like that.
And is that because you're mentioning you're inside of Beyond? Is that because you need an intimate understanding of prices in order to make marketing decisions, or you just like playing around with rates?
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. If you're going to do a promotion, you kind of got to know where the prices are at. You have to kind of know, all right, if I'm doing a 15% discount, are these owners going to be netting less, or are they going to be netting more? Are they netting enough right now that they can afford to withstand a 15% discount, or are the prices a lot higher and we need to actually drop the price and do a discount on top of it? And I'm always a big fan of not letting pricing just be hands off, no matter how much AI goes into it, no matter how much historical and future data they use. I always feel like you should have a firm grip on the steering wheel. It's almost like cruise control, where you may not need to touch the gas pedal, but you still need to steer.
Yeah, we're not quite yet at the go fall asleep in your self-driving car mode.
Yeah, we're not there yet.
Along these same lines, a final question. Can you share any lessons from what happens if a marketing person is not really synced with other divisions?
Yes. Chaos. Chaos can happen. I am very big on making sure other departments are aware of what we're doing, only because they're impacted by what we say. In terms of the guest cycle, before the guest, like most 9 times out of 10, I'd say the guest isn't going to find your phone number and call in. They're going to go to your website. They're going to find you on these OTA platforms. They're going to find you wherever before they call you. And that means that the first thing they see about your company is marketing. So if I'm out here saying that if you stay at Compass Resorts, you won't find one single grain of sand on your balcony, that's going to affect operations, because then we're going to have a bunch of upset guests who found sand on their balconies because it's Florida and it's a beachfront condo. Sand's going to get there. But then also that affects guest services, because then how are they going to complain about the sand on their balcony? They're going to call, they're going to email, they're going to text, they're going to do whatever they can to get in touch with someone to let them know that, hey, y'all told me that there was going to be no sand on this balcony, and there is sand on this balcony. I want it fixed, or I want compensation, or I just want to vent. And that wears them down. And that also affects other guests, because then if you have a potential guest who's trying to call in and make a reservation, and if they're sitting on hold for 10 minutes because everybody's taking calls about sand on the balcony, they're not going to book with you because they can't get to you.
You ever think about what it would be like to manage one property and be the only person that's interacting with guests across marketing and customer service? Would that be fun for you?
Oh, I feel like that would be like, you ever see like the little like videos of like, oh, can I speak to the manager? And then the person turns around, puts on a hat and a set of glasses, and is like, oh, hello, I'm the manager.
Right. I am the boss.
That's how I feel like it would be. I've actually taken a call like that before. Last year during the 2 years ago during the shutdown, we were assisting with calls, and someone was like, well, I want to speak to someone in marketing. And I was like, hello, I'm someone on marketing. Or even last year, I would help out every now and then whenever there was like a high spike in call volume and someone was asking for a discount. And at the time I was the revenue manager, or this is like late 2 years ago, I was like the revenue manager. So I was like, all right, hold on, let me reach out to our revenue manager and see what I can do. So I put them on hold. I went to Key Data. I looked at what the owner got last year. I was like, okay, this reservation's a decent amount more. Let's see if we can bring it down a little bit. Okay, owner's going to be happy because they're making more. Guests going to be happy because I got my good discount. Took a sip of water, got back on the phone and was like, hey, I actually reached out to our revenue manager. He went ahead and approved it. I had to fight with him a little bit, but I got that done for you.
I love it. I thought you were going to say you got on the phone but slightly changed your voice.
Oh, no. We don't pass off calls to the managers like that. We always have to have them call. It's a weird situation sometimes where you try to transfer and then someone drops the call, and then it's like we rather just have the manager call the guest versus trying to transfer it, and then the guest gets hung up on, and then that's a bad experience, and you don't want that to happen. So I was like, I'm just gonna say I'm gonna ask the manager, put them on hold, turn around, look at myself, say,
I consulted our numbers and we were able to make it work.
Yep.
How's that for a hilarious note to end on? The best vacation rental professionals wear many hats, and as the ultimate team player, I can tell that Miles is also wearing a smile in the process, which is really my conclusion from this interview. Marketing should be fun. It should reflect you. Quirky, personal, creative, experimental. Some of it'll fail miserably. Some of it will go over resoundingly well, which is basically where we started this interview, Miles' definition of first mover status. In fact, let's play that opening line once more.
I would say first mover status to me means not being afraid to take a leap, to just, you don't really have all the information saying that this is the right thing to do. You don't have the historical information saying that this will work, but taking the leap and doing what you feel is right, feeling like doing what you feel works, not just for your company, but for your property owners and for your guests.
If you'd like to make an investment in your own vacation rental marketing, consider buying our 2022 Trends Report, which is a very focused guide based on market leaders like Miles and Compass Resorts. You can download that document at vrmb.com/trends. Until next time.